Well, thank you, everybody. I think this has been extremely informative. We've discussed several important scenarios in the treatment and management of multiple myeloma. And before we end this discussion, I'd like to get final thoughts from each of our panelists. So, Dr. Bensinger, some final thoughts.
Well, I think now that we have several new classes of drugs for the treatment of multiple myeloma, we can really do some important studies to design 3 and possibly 4 drug regimens to induce quick and high complete response rates, perhaps to MRD negativity. I think the future studies are going to be driven by MRD negativity as an endpoint, a surrogate endpoint for the treatment of patients. And they're going to inform us about whether or not patients need additional therapies. So I think this is changing over time, and we're in a very good position now with this disease. I predict that we're going to start to see an increase in the fraction of patients that are long-term survivors disease-free in the next few years.
Jatin.
So I'm just going to highlight, I think, a couple of messages. Number one is that regardless of all these therapies, use your best therapies up front. So I think we have to stick with that principle. Number two, I think it's important to, when you look at all these new therapies, it's no longer important just to look at the median PFS, which is one time point, on just the overall response rate. I think it's important to start looking at things like the hazard ratio. Look at the shape of the Kaplan-Meier curves. When do the curves separate? Early versus late? Do they remain separated? What's the long-term survival? So as we evaluate this as oncologists, it's no longer just about median PFS and response rate. I think there's a lot more that we have to look at. Hazard ratio, the shape of the Kaplan-Meier curves, long-term survival. I think that's important as well.
Well, thank you. Rafael, closing thoughts, messages for the oncologists out there?
Very, very quick. By the time you're seeing this and we're not in Periscope, things will have changed just with what is being presented at this meeting. And that's really the current status. There's a great optimism for new treatments and new drugs. So I'm very, very pleased by that. I agree with everything that has been said before. With myeloma, we're learning more and more that the important things go hand in hand. Progression-free survival, overall survival, quality of life, all of those things seem to go hand in hand. There's exceptions to that. So as we see treatments that give us great responses, they're giving us great PFS and overall survival. And I just again, would like to encourage people that are seeing us from the community. We're happy to work with you. We realize myeloma is only but a small fraction of your practice, and it's gotten incredibly complex, and we're happy to partner as we care for these patients.
Ola.
I echo everything the other attendants here have said. I think where we are right now, we can deliver deep, quick, and sustained freedom from disease, which is fantastic for patients. I think the 3 key things I think we have talked about that I think are important are MRD, I think 3 drugs, and also when we can have the disease under such good control, we can focus more on quality of life. I think that's where the field is going. 3 drugs, MRD testing, and quality of life. I think the future is really, really fantastic for patients. And I also agree with what Rafael just said. We are working together. We are one big family here. We have some different perspectives of things, but we still have like the big picture the same way, and we are working together with community practice. So we are all here trying to do the same thing.
Well, there you have it. It's treat some patients earlier, use all your best drugs at first, keep them going for longer, aim for MRD, I think would be the summary of our last 90 minutes of conversation. So thanks to all of you for your contributions to this discussion. On behalf of our panel, we thank you for joining us, and we hope you found this peer exchange discussion to be useful and informative.